This podcast is brought to you in association with From Sweden with Love, one of the oldest fan sites dedicated to the world of 007. Online since 2004 and also on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Why not check them out today? JamesBond007.se. Nobody does it better. Or as they say in Stockholm these days, ingen gör det bättre.
Every film every stunt every story Ever heard of Evel Knievel? Welcome to the YouTube series. Welcome to 1983, and probably one of the greatest years in film if you're a Bond fan. 2 movies in 1 year, and we start with the summer release that was Octopussy. So let's get on with it because we've got an awful lot to cram into this show this week, and we're going to start the chat with 009. Andy Bradford.
Yes, Dean Bally. I was lucky enough to go to Berlin because we actually,
That's right, yeah.
The art department created a false Berlin Wall in front of the other one, but there was still, they had the background, which was absolutely, perfect. And it was quite weird going over, to come over the other side of the wall with the real Berlin Wall just behind me and all the guards across in their various little positions with their binoculars and things, being probably very fascinated by what was going on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, that was great because I really loved Berlin. And I went back there again to do another film. I think it was later. Yes, it was later than Octopussy. But you did ask how it happened or how I got the part.
Yeah, how you got that role as 009.
Well, Octopussy was being... Martin Grace went for a recce on Octopussy to the Nîmes Valley.
Right.
You see, Martin, before the injury, was, Roger Moore's pretty well exclusive stunt double.
Yes, that's right.
Anyway, he goes on a recce, and they were talking about, now we've got to get the guy here. We need to double him here. That won't be too difficult. And then he's got to do this other thing. And then you've got to go, so we double him here. God, isn't it a pity we haven't got anybody that... And Martin said, excuse me, John, but I know somebody who could do this.
Right.
And he said, really? And he said, yeah, are you sure? And he said, yeah, because it's, it's not no dialogue, but it's a part that needs a certain amount of reaction to it.
Yes.
So anyway, I did the job. And on the way, our first part of the film was starting in Berlin.
Right.
And we were all going onto the aircraft, or we'd met up, and I was a bit staggered because I was sitting next to John Glenn. John Glenn was sitting on the outside of me, reading a paper, and I was just sort of being there, really. I think I had a book or something. Mm-hmm. And he said, Andy, Andrew, what do you like to be called? And I said, well, everybody, I'm Andrew this, but, my mum calls me Andrew, but everybody in the industry generally calls me Andy now. Mm-hmm. And he said, can I talk to you about acting? And I said, yes, John. And he said, well, acting is very much... And I suddenly realized that he had taken a big shot in the dark for quite an important character.
Right.
And I did the first day's filming, which was quite extensive, climbing over the wall and falling down with his wonderful shoes on and the clown face and everything. And I think a day after, they had viewed rushes, and I was in the bar just off the Kapuzendamm. It was a nice hotel. Hotel Kempinski, I think it was called.
Okay.
And Michael Wilson one of the producers came and sat on the bar stool next to me, and he said, and he turned and he said, "Would you like a drink?" And I said, "Well, I'd have another beer. That'd be very nice." And he said, "Well, I just want to say, Andy, that we've seen the rushes," and I had that incredible paranoia that, I'm really sorry, but it ain't going to work. We're going to have to reshoot with someone else. I really had. Anyway, Michael Wilson said, "Have you ever thought about being an actor, Andy?" And I said,
well, it's funny you should say that.
Interesting. But which was very complimentary of him. And I thought that was very nice. So thank you. And that gave me a sort of boost, and I felt that, much more secure from then on. But of course, a lot of the other stuff wasn't directed. We went to do second unit in Black Park and the Neem Valley stuff and the knife, and it all went great. And I think I texted you to say how sad I was not to complete.
And of course, we must talk about you going into the water. How was that done? I mean, was that literally a case of timing and going into the water at a certain spot? That presumably all had to be safety checked beforehand, that weir before you went into it?
Yes, the weir, I guess, was safety checked. Mm-hmm. I don't record safety checking it myself. The water, when you go backwards, wasn't that deep.
Right.
But I had a lot of experience and I think that helped me certainly get into the stunt register, was of the diver. I know how to go backwards into water from a height to, as you call, flat it.
Yes.
And you've also got, I don't think I wore a back protector, but I had a reasonably good costume. You've got to be careful.
Did you have a wetsuit on under it?
I think I probably did, but very thin, because I didn't want to fit. Sometimes when you see actors or some stuff done with a wetsuit, it makes you almost too buoyant. But they wanted to see the costume. I probably did have a wetsuit, and I think Martin Grace told me to go and get one. It was very early days in my sort of stunt career.
And so the what would you say the approximate distance was from the fall into the water? What sort of height are we talking about, do you think?
Oh gosh, it's
10 or 12, a bit more.
I would, that 10 or 12. Nothing that would freak me.
Okay.
No, if it been 7 meters, you're doing a different
because
I think I went. I think I went pretty well flat. I think the knife comes quite near. And
yes,
I've
it
got
does.
A very good still, and then it gets me in the centre of the back, doesn't it?
Right, that's it. Yeah, you get one in the back.
And I just, they wanted me to fall backwards, almost like a tree, and that's what I did. And that flat backs the water, so you're on the surface of the water because it's not very deep, but it's deep back. But as the water goes over the lip of the, as it were, the weir, it's very shallow, isn't it? And there is 1 or 2 takes where I sort of stay there, knifed, and they've got various cameras on me, and I'm traveling down, and I didn't know my hat and wig had come off at that point.
Oh, I see, right.
And when I sort of surfaced, there was a lot of laughter from the crew because, they didn't want that particular thing to happen at that point. There are later times when my hat comes off with the balloons that I'm carrying and all that stuff, isn't there?
Yes, that's right.
There's loads of stuff. It's all.
It's a very clever little sequence. And then, how far did you go down after you've come off the weir? And of course, you flow off down with the flow of the water. How far are you going? Was it somebody to get you down there, or?
Yeah, it took me a long way, and I think we cut then to dragging myself, which was me out of the water, which I think we'd done at the Neem Valley. Then we cut through to the bit that I couldn't do when we're interior in the sort of studio at Pinewood.
That's right,
looking to the French windows where you see the clown approach and crashes through.
Yes.
I've always been terribly embarrassed when I've been asked to go and sign pictures.
It's not me, it's Dave Holland.
Yes, Dave Holland, and dear old Dave isn't with us anymore.
No, sadly. And of course, we must talk about you. It's later on in the film, which of course is the Monsoon Palace, as I believe it's referred to.
That's right.
And of course, going down the stairs, and that was the somersault down the stairs. That looks quite like the Irish whip or something of that nature to get you down the stairs.
I years ago, I used to practice Aikido with my best buddy. I met him on a Dixon of Dock Green, way back before your time. And we shared a dressing room down the bowels, as it were, of the BBC. You are taught, we called it an Aikido. It's like a throw roll. It's like one of my sons does judo quite a bit, but you make yourself a wheel, and you can do it on concrete. It bloody hurts.
I seem to remember a tiger rug as well being thrown over the railing, if I'm not mistaken, which you then fire at, and then you then fall down the stairs. I think that's.
Oh gosh. So I must rewatch this Bond.
Yes, I seem to remember that's the idea. But now it's time to catch up with Rocky Taylor, who was Roger Moore's main stunt double in India, as he remembers his time on set.
A break from Bob Simmons saying, "Do you want to double for Roger Moore?" I said, "Well, yeah, I'd love to." He said, "We're going to India." I said, "Oh, India? What's that on?" He said, "A film called Octopussy." So I said, "Well, that'd be fantastic. Thank you, Bob." So I lost a little bit of weight. I had to made sure I had about 4 or 5 weeks, 6 weeks. So I lost a couple of pounds, and I got invited to go to India, Udaipur, I think it was called. Udaipur.
That's right.
And there were 13 Miss Worlds on the picture, which was very nice. And when we landed, we got to Udaipur, and then we had to go across to this island. There was an island in the middle of the lake, and that was the hotel we were staying in. Get into the hotel, and also I get a phone call in the room. "Rocky, can you come down a minute, please?" "Yeah, all right." I go down, speak to the AD, forget his name now, but he said to me, "Rocky," he said, "we've got a bit of a problem. Nothing for you." He said, "But there's 13 Miss Worlds going to be on this island with you." I said, "What?" He said, 13 Miss Worlds are playing parts in this film, and we put them in this hotel, and you've got to make sure that you look after them.
He said the word problem. I don't see it. Is there a problem? I don't see a problem, surely.
I said, "I don't know whether I can cope with that. I don't know." Anyway, it did transpire. We had a great time. Where was I? Oh, on Octopussy, I had to go into the water, doubling for Roger.
Yes, that's right. At the end of the tiger hunt, isn't it?
Yeah, and what they said was we were on the beach, and they said the boat's coming in, Rock. Yeah, he said, and you've got to go through these weeds and get to the boat. And the man behind me said, "Well, there's lots of slugs and stuff in there." He said, I said, "Well," so I put a wetsuit on underneath my clothes.
Yeah.
And I went out. I managed to get out. You can see me looking for these bloody slugs. Get to the boat, get in the boat. And as I came out, I looked, and I'm full of slugs all the way down. Thank God I put the wetsuit on.
Leeches, aren't they? Shocking.
Leeches,
yeah.
that's
horrible,
what I meant. Leeches,
horrible
slugs.
things. Oh dear.
Leeches, yeah. And Roger was on the thing. He said, "That was a good job, Rock. Thank God I didn't do it." I said, "Yeah, thanks, Roger."
He's not daft, is he?
No.
Now the other thing
He's a
you
lovely
remember,
man. Lovely man.
the other thing, of course, doubling Roger in India was part of that amazing tuk-tuk chase.
The tuk-tuk. Yeah, I wasn't driving the tuk-tuk. I was passenger in the back.
That's right.
Doubling for Roger. The guy in the front driving the tuk-tuk was Remy Julien's son.
Dominique. Was it Dominique? I think
Dominique,
it was Dominique.
yeah. And we had to go down the high street through all the stalls, smashing stalls left and smashing stalls right. And someone throws a knife at him down. They're throwing a knife to try and hit him.
Right.
This round knife, there's a knife with 2 blades on the end. And
That's
you
it.
throw
Yeah.
it. And it hits me, or supposed to be Roger, in the chest, and it sticks in. And you see it go zoom, and you go, "Oh, Roger's been stabbed." But what happened? They gave him some notes, money notes,
bundles of money in his pocket. Yeah,
and the spear hit the notes and stuck in it, and he didn't die.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, and then we do a jump over a camel.
That's right.
We do a jump over a camel. We take off and land in boxes the other side. That was a pretty hair-raising experience.
I bet it was, yeah.
In a tuk-tuk.
Certainly as far as a lot of that driving was concerned, so you were the passenger, you were coming down the flight of stairs, you were in the back doubling Roger that period of time. Dominique was doing the driving, but you were always the double when we're seeing that action on screen.
Most of the time it was me. I think there was a chance I wasn't there one morning. We did it in 2 or 3 days. Okay. One morning I didn't turn up, so another guy got in. I think his name was Patrick.
Pat Banter.
Yeah, he did a bit of it as well, but most of it was me. Martin Grace got very badly injured. He was the main double for Roger.
Yes.
And he got very badly injured on the train where he broke his back and his pelvis hanging on. They called me back from India to come back and finish off some doubling for him. But by this time, Paul Weston got involved. I did do a couple of rolls down the benches.
That's right. I mean, after Bond and the guy he's fighting, in this case, it's Paul and Wayne Michaels, after they leave the train, then there's a scene of you rolling down the bank and running away.
Right. I come off the train and roll down the dirt into the woods and run away. That was me, yeah. But, these, like nowadays, these films, they've got about 3 or 4 different doubles now. You're
that's
not
right.
just You're not just tied to one person.
Martin Grace was Roger Moore's chief stuntman until his accident on this film, and in order to keep the movie on schedule, Paul Weston took over with a few other doubles to complete the train sequence. Here's Paul.
On Octopussy, Martin had his accident on the side of the train, and they called me in to take over and coordinate the whole thing and double for Roger, which was fine. I was quite happy to do. The train was going at 35 miles an hour, and what we had to do is he gets out, he climbs along the top and back down again, and then he gets on top again, under bridges, over pipes, and then comes off at the end. So I had to work it out how we were going to do this with the second unit director, Arthur Worcester. And we set up cameras on the side of the train. I came up with a lovely shot. I thought, a nice low angle, and you'll see me hanging because we had no wires or anything. It's all freehand. So I'm climbing alongside the train, and I thought it'd be nice if I hit a bush and I fall down, and you see my toes hit the side of the track with low angle camera. It looked fantastic. So Arthur said, yeah, great. So we set up the camera and off we go, 35 miles an hour. I slip down, drop, and my toes are hitting the side of the thing. And Roger's got, a very nice pair of ordinary shoes. And my toes, I can't tell you, were black and blue afterwards. I thought I won't volunteer for much more than this. But yeah, it was great fun. Climbing alongside the train, then getting on the top of it. The inside, I mean, the most dangerous job I've ever done. I left it as late as too late, really. I mean, for sensibility, was climbing out of the flap on the top of the train and seeing the bridge coming towards me, and then deciding whether to go back in or come out, stand up, and then duck down under the bridge. The bridge was only, 2 foot above the train itself, doing 35 miles an hour. So we set it up, camera on the train behind me, and so looking towards the bridge. So I worked it out that I was going to have a guy's assistant sitting on the side of the track, and when my truck got to a certain point, he would say now on the walkie-talkie. I would lift the flap up, look to see if I've got plenty of time, climb up, shut the lid, and duck under the bridge. So I said, okay, turn over, and we did it. And now, and I opened up, plenty of time, shut the lid, under the bridge. So I can do this closer. I can get much closer than this. So I said the same again, back to number one. Off go 35 miles an hour. He says, now I go 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, and I just, you can see me get out, and I don't have time to shut the lid. I just duck underneath it. It was fractions of a second. Just out. I would have been wiped out. And then we come out the other side, and each time I'm on top of the train, there's a pipe across the middle of the track. So I lay down and go underneath it. And I said to Arthur and the boys, I said, if they see this on rushes, they're going to say, Paul, about this pipe. So sure enough, 2 days later, I get a call. Paul, about that pipe, you think you could dive over it? I said, I'll give it a go. I'll give it a go. So you're doing it 35 miles an hour. And for me, it's all relevant because I'm just taking a couple of paces running. But the pipe is 2 feet or so, 2'6" above the track. It's coming at me at 35 miles an hour. So I've got to time it so that I'm in the air when it goes underneath me. If I jump too soon and my feet come down on it, I'm going to be knocked off. And there's no safety. So I said to the boys, I said, look, forgive me if I chicken out. I'll do what I can, but let's have a go. And sure enough, it came at me 35 miles an hour. I timed it just right, leapt up in the air, and it just went underneath me, and I hit back on again. The problem was hitting back on again, bouncing.
Yeah.
But I did it okay, so that was another good one to have done. There was 2,000 boxes alongside the railway track, and they were deciding, they did that. It was probably 150 yards of time to come out, to come off. So they didn't know when they were going to come off, and it would, so they were covering themselves with rows of boxes. I mean, just boxes. So now it's come down to me to do. So I look at it, and in that case, where would you put the camera? So I knew exactly what I was going to do. At the end of the boxes, or the start of the boxes, I would have a sandbag, which I did, and doing 30 miles an hour, just throw the sandbag. And where the sandbag hit is where we were going to hit. So put the camera on the other side of that. You didn't need any, you only need the boxes where you're going to land. Yeah. So that's what we did. And we had Wayne Michaels doubling for one of the twins, and he had tremendous courage. Because I'm facing where we're going, he's got his back to it, and there's no boxes, he can't see it. So I said to Wayne, look, trust me, I'll put you on, we'll both go off in the boxes, but before the camera. So he said, yeah, okay. And with great courage, I got hold of him, I said, now, and as he went, I had to leave my toes on for a fraction of a second longer. If we'd have gone together, we would have both hit, and that would have been painful, falling on top of each other. So I had to leave it just a fraction of a second. So I overtook him and landed in front of the cameras. And it worked out perfectly, and he was very good.
Not often in this show are we graced with an actual Bond actress, but in order to understand why the late stuntwoman Dorothy Ford didn't double Christina Wayborn for her backflip from the balcony, we must go direct to the actress. And this is what she told me. Sorry, gag, flipping from the balcony. So, can you tell me something about that?
It actually started. They were discussing how they were going to do the first part, and one of the stunt guys was saying, "Well, maybe we could send Christina like a slingshot over the building."
Guys, I'm here. You don't have to talk about me. I'm here.
Looked at him. I was sort of excited. I said, yeah, that sounds interesting. And John Glenn said, no, we can't do that because we're going to need Christina when we get home to London. So I went to lunch to have my usual fish and chips there at Pinewood. And I'd always said to John, I really want to do my own stunts. I'm really agile and I'm athletic and all that. And he said, yeah. So when I came back from lunch, John said seriously to me, he said, so you really want to do this stuff? I said, well, yes, of course. Okay. So I didn't know until much later about Dorothy and the whole thing. And I didn't really know any details about it, so.
I wouldn't be at all surprised if Bob Simmons had said, let's rehearse for it. Because Dorothy was going to be doubling it. And I suspect they rehearse it quite a lot so they get the timing right. And maybe she's injured herself whilst going over the balcony with her lower back. Now, when you went over, obviously the sari is tied on, but was there a wire of any kind? I mean, what safety measures were in place as far as you were aware so that when you went over that balcony, because I imagine the drop was quite small the other side, but nevertheless.
I think, she might have literally just as simple as holding your hands correctly on that balustrade.
Right.
I don't know what her issues were there, but, I wasn't, I just dropped into a huge air mattress, like.
Right. Okay.
And then, of course, the pickup shot then is in India, coming down.
Yes.
And that was done with a wire.
Right, that was a wire. Okay.
Yeah.
It's interesting if you compare it now. If that stunt was being done today, there would be so many wires involved in the takeoff and the landing. And, of course, they'd remove them all afterwards, in post.
But John, I'm an old cowgirl, so nothing faces me. I've been jumping from hay lofts all my life, and I couldn't wait to get up on the highest crossbar in the barn there where I grew up on the island of Öland in Sweden, to jump down into the hay. I mean, the higher up, the better for me, So
I don't know whether you knew this, incidentally. I don't know whether you knew this, but that because obviously the takeoff was at Pinewood and the landing was in India, which means that you are technically responsible for the longest high fall ever. It's just over 4,000 miles.
Do you think I can get into the Guinness Book of World Records?
Hey, I've seen people get into the Guinness Book of Records for less, right? So I think there's certainly a possibility.
Some good memories from that. You know, we really had a good time.
And finally this week, we take a look at those incredible aerial specialists, B.J. Worth, Jake Lombard, Randy DeLuca, and stuntman Norman Howell, as they give Bond his all-time high. So this is Norman Howell. He's the stunt double for Roger Moore. He's got to ride the horse and jump forward. Now look at his left leg. His left leg is positioned right on the end of the tail of the plane, and he's using an L step, an L stirrup. Look, there's no way of him catching his foot in it. He'll have the same the other side. He has to jump forward ahead of the horse to get out of the saddle and onto the rear of the aircraft, which he does there. And that's an excellent piece of work. That really is. Billy Burton brought Norman Howell in. It's an excellent equestrian. And this particular sequence, of course, we forget that if Moonraker hadn't have worked, if that opening pre-title sequence hadn't have worked, you wouldn't be getting action sequences like this. This is some of the test footage, and these boys are incredible. I mean, the way that they create the action, little bits of information. For instance, the hiding of the handholds along the design of the aircraft. That top bar, there's a bar there. It's a rubberized bar, or it's covered in rubber, and it's attached to the fuselage so they can hold on and get into some sort of position. The forces on your body as you're attached to the aircraft and spinning and tumbling. This is B.J. Worth here. Of course, he's got an altimeter on and goggles, so it's a test. They're all testing the handholds to see how successful they are. All the guys getting out, holding on. One goes way back. Jake Brake goes way back, and they're all on top there. And look, they're holding on. They're perfectly happy. They're chatting with each other, or as chatting as you can be in a 200-mile-an-hour wind, and making decisions about, we feel pretty safe here. And then they're going to make a decision to go and leave. But these are all important tests. All of these tests have to be done. If those handholds don't work, then they've got to go right back to square one again. They've got to redesign them. And of course, the costume design as well. Here's BJ. He's doubling Gobinder. And he's wearing a turban, and he's got a beard. Now 200-mile-an-hour winds. That's really all you're going to see. And here's Jake on the roof. This shot from the film, of course, peering inside, trying the door handle, and now he's got to tell the guys inside, right, I've done that bit. Let me in. So there's a system. Bang on the roof. Let me know you're ready. There we go. There's the bang on the roof, and in he goes again, using the handholds. There's a foothold there just by the edge of the door. Anything that's going to make life easier. And you find that since this movie came out, this is standard now on any aircraft that is used for parachuting. They have these the patented designs. BJ coming out now with the rubber knife in his mouth. People have asked me, how does he manage to hold that real knife in his mouth? Well, he doesn't. Look, he can barely hold his feet on the floor with 200-mile-an-hour winds. It is very, very blowy and very, very disorientating when they're up there. Now, of course, he's out in costume. He's got no altimeter on, no goggles, so the wind is in his face. And look at it, without those handholds, he wouldn't be able to maneuver himself into position. He's really having trouble getting any grip with his feet whatsoever, and having to work his way forward on this, and of course can make communication to the camera. So wait, I'm going to go back in again. Let me try that. Let me try it once more. See if I can do it. This is a fixed camera position on top of the aircraft, and this is Jake, and he's just got handholds. Right, the feet aren't attached. This is pure handholds and gravity. The G force is holding him, forcing him in place. Now, of course, my concern here, look at BJ working his way up towards the front. That's a prop aircraft. Look how close he is. His left foot is to the edge of where the propeller is. Really unbelievable. Now, He's been asked on numerous occasions, do you realise how far you were going forwards? Of course I knew how far I was going forwards, he says. But you have to ask. I mean, man, that is really, really close. Any farther forward and he would be in serious, serious trouble. As they work their way in and work their way out, you can see the way the costume hugs the parachute underneath. It's very, very cleverly done. And these are revolutionary in design for these type of action sequences. So if you've enjoyed today's show, and let's be honest, why wouldn't you? Then subscribe. The buttons are down here. Click the subscribe button and enter a world of excitement simply at the touch of a button. Thanks for joining me. See you next time.